وبركاته. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وسلام على المرسلين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. So, an introduction to Holy Quran and Quranology. Quran and pluralism. I told you that recently both among non-Muslims and Muslims there is a serious discussion and a hot debate with regard to reliability of the Holy Quran, coming from the issue of interpretation. Normally, whether we are Arab or non-Arab, we are not able to get benefit out of Quran except through translation, interpretation, and hidden extract, whether الترجمة أو التفسير أو التأويل. Whether we are Muslim or non-Muslim, we are not able to get benefit anything from Quran except through one of these: translation, interpretation, or hidden extract, that we call it ta'wil. Ta'wil. So, nowadays it's a big discussion about pluralism. Starts and begins from Quran, and then it is expanded and extended to religiosity, faith, way of life, style of life, human lifestyle, human way of life. So the beginning is from understanding the divine text. It has started from divine text, and then it is generalized to normal books, particularly the philosophical and mystical. A volume like Fusus al-Hikam by Ibn Arabi, or volumes like Al-Futuhat al-Makkiyah written by Ibn Arabi. They are not simple normal volumes. They are very rich and heavy in language. So the beginning was from divine scriptures, and then it is generalized and expanded to other volumes. So the new modern discussion is pluralistic interpretation of the Quran. When they say pluralistic, they claim that it is not one single interpretation for the Holy Quran. Because even among ulama, there are different methodology, different procedure. Some scholars approximate and consult with Quran through philosophical methodology. The other go through mystical. The other go through theological. The other go through scientific. The other go through fiqhi, ijtihadi, just with regard to Islamic legal system. The other go through economical, political, educational, psychological. There are different approaches. So each scholar consults the Holy Quran with a special type of approach, because no one could go and take benefit from Quran with a general understanding. If you go by general approach, it's translation. It's not interpretation. It's not knowledge. Knowledge comes when you have particular approach, psychological, sociological, economical, political, mystical, philosophical. So it depends. So the main questions are these two. I told you this last night. Does religion or religious text has only one single interpretation or many? Because this is one book came to Prophet Muhammad, and it's a pack. So this pack include a knowledge, pieces of knowledge. So to arrive that at these pieces of knowledge, is it different avenue but same target, or different avenues and different discoveries? The question number one. Question number two, if there are many interpretations, many targets, many understanding, are they all the same, or some superior and more appropriate to another? So number one or different. Number two, these differences are all the same or with superiority for some. Why? This is the two main questions in pluralistic understanding and interpretation of the Holy Quran. I told you that this discussion has a historical background. If we want to understand pluralism in terms of Quran understanding, we have to go back to the historical background. Then when we have that background, we come to know to these questions, to the answer of these questions. Historical background of this discussion. This challenge from the churches was because they insisted on ideas without having any base in reason or revelation. They took philosophical ideas as revelation. I told you that the root and the beginning of pluralism is because many Christian church, they adopted, they welcomed, they accepted some ideas which was not revelation. Why? Because I told you, even the Christian scholars believe that the 4 Bibles are not the word of Jesus, are not word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's the inspiration of 4 of the helpers. They were inspired, and then they put it into 4 types of Bible. So afterwards, because Bible was mixed with different Greek and philosophical discoveries and findings taken from the ancient Greek philosophy. So Aristotelian and Platonic ideas are mixed and intermingled with the teachings of Bible. Since they belonged to previous Greek, then it came to contradictory with new discoveries. After Galilei and new discoveries in science, it seemed that there is a contradiction between the teachings of Bible and teachings of discoveries of the sciences. So, since there was a feeling of contradiction, they attempted to compromise, to find a way. For them, this is revelation, this is faith, and it has to be compatible with the discoveries of sciences. So what could they do? Attempts to make compatibility between the teachings of Bible. It started first with Bible, and findings of new sciences, modern sciences. So there are different types of attempts. Number one, the first attempt to solve the problem of dichotomy and contradiction comes with the issue of language. Be very careful. They say science and religion, they carry two types of language. Language of science is language of discovery. Discovery of what? The facts, the realities. What is the job and responsibility of scientists, scholars? Trial and error. They go through the avenue of trial and error to discover that water is combined from oxygen and hydrogen. So the language, the approach, and the procedure, accepted procedure in science is language of discovery. Discovery of what? Facts, realities. This is language. What is the language of religion? When prophets, messengers came to humanity and they had their own scriptures, is the language of religion is the same language of science? They say no. They say language of religion is not language of discovery. Prophets are not scientists, are not experimentalists, are not even philosophers. Prophets and messengers are people who came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to create an atmosphere of motivation for humanity to push, to move, to empower humanity toward moral values and a new life, a new religious lifestyle. So the very job of prophets is what? Is discovery? Is providing you the facts of this universe? No. The very job of prophet is perspective and motivation. They want to give you a perspective. When you look at this universe, do you look at it as a created item or came into being by chance? Are you the follower of evolutionary theory or creationary theory? This is a general perspective. In general perspective, you have a perspective, but that perspective is not discovery of a tiny fact, like the combination of water from two items of oxygen and hydrogen. So the language of religion is language of symbolism. The language of religion is allegorical. Language of science is discovery, experimental. Language of religion is what? Allegorical. For example, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, سبع سماوات والأرضين السبع والسماوات السبع. Is it really talking about 7 heavens? They say no, this is not talking about facts, realities. It is a type of creating a perspective. This perspective motivates human being not to take this life as joke. To be a bit serious, to be honest, to be kind, to live together, to exercise coexistence. So one way that Christian scholars created was talking about two different types of language. They say the language of religion and faith is different than the language of science. And this is a very dangerous attempt. You know why? Because when you say the language of religion is symbolic, then there is a possibility of different variety of interpretation. Which one is right? You know, in religion it's not matter of right and wrong. It's not matter of discovery. It's matter of motivation. Prophets came to humanity to provide them knowledge, science, technology. They came to create an atmosphere of being good, kind, compassionate, merciful, giver. When you talk through this way, it's the demise of religion. If you believe, if you accept that language of faith and religion is not language of facts and realities, it's a symbolic language, it's metaphorical language. Metaphor, symbol are not realities. How do you interpret a dream? Someone interprets it in one way, some the other way. So it's due to you. It's due to your wishes, to your mood, to your feeling. So the first attempt to solve the contradiction between teachings of biblical teaching and scientific discoveries of Kepler and Copernicus and Galilei, it was the differentiation between two types of language. They say there are different interpretation of the Bible since the language of religious text is different than other languages. What is the language of religion? Symbolic, metaphorical. When you say metaphorical, it comes in between hermeneutic. What is hermeneutic? Hermeneutic means an attempt from scholars to go and understand the meaning, the content of scriptures based on different expertise and background that each scholar has. Hermeneutics, or interpreting the Bible, is a way not to contradict the scientific findings. So the difference between the language of religion and language of science is that one is for fact, the other is for motivation and perspective. Discovering the reality and fact, or changing attitudes and motivations. Extension of hermeneutics to other texts and even to all discourses and scientific findings. At the beginning it was just for interpreting the scriptures and then extended to other texts. And nowadays hermeneutics is a discipline, is a field of knowledge. Some experts, some scholars are expert in hermeneutics. And what do they say? They say we are expert in understanding symbolic and metaphorical text. And what are the symbolic and metaphorical texts? Number one, religious text, scriptures. Number two, mystical text. Number three, philosophical. Number four, moral and ethical text. They say these are all metaphorical. So why they began with hermeneutic. The very base, keep in mind, the very base of hermeneutic is this: every person understands others based on his or her own mentality. You are listening to my talk. Is it the case that all of you take the same fact from my talk? Some of you have previous backgrounds in maybe Islamic studies, science, technology, artificial intelligence, chemistry, physics. So whenever you talk to anyone, do you take the same content that I talk to you? People are different, their understandings are different. So it's not fair to expect that all people understand and take the same message from Quran. Because Quran is like a person. When you talk to a person, when you talk to a scholar, a normal lay person, could we all take the same message? Of course not. Therefore, there are different understanding as there are different people. So there is no one single understanding anywhere. Look, they started from the root. This is cutting the reliability of scripture from the root. They don't let you to look at Quran and other scriptures as reliable. They say people are different, their understandings are different. So those ulama who believe that Quran could or should have one single interpretation, they're wrong. We don't have. And sometimes they provide some examples. They say nowadays, is fuqaha the same in their understanding from with regard to ahkam? Some with regard, what is the age of puberty of girls? 9 or 13? Different. Which one is right? Which one is wrong? They say different understanding, different ijtihad. If we go through this avenue, we are taking out the root of reliability of Quran. Of course, Quran could and should have one single understanding, because it's a message for human mission on this planet. I told you at the beginning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I have created humanity for a mission. إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ Khalifa. So what could we do to become Khalifa? Through our reason? Through trial and error? Science? Or through revelation? So if revelation has different types of understanding, so how could we know what is our mission? It demolishes and destroys the very purpose and philosophy of human creation. If really we don't have one single. Okay, you have your own. Be happy with your own understanding. And you also be happy with it. So in this way, do we have one religion? So you say, I'm happy in the morning not to do my prayer at that time. I just think. I have a beat music. Why should I wake up early morning, wash faces and hands, and do 2 units? It's too much. I go, inshallah, at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, while I'm going at work, I just listen to a piece of music. Or I just try to connect in-heartedly. whether in Arabic or in English or in French or in German or poems or whatever. So the way of Sharia will collapse. You don't have to. Why? Because you don't understand the same as me. So hermeneutics means rules and guidelines for rightly interpreting the Bible. Rightly. Even for them, there is right and wrong. So the first attempt to create compatibility between religion and science was the issue of language. They differentiated between the language of religion and language of science. While we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the language of religion is the language of discovery. هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم for what? يتلو عليهم آياته ويعلمهم What is wisdom? Wisdom means symbols, metaphors. The whole scriptures comes for symbols and metaphors. And is it life? Our daily life goes by metaphors? This is closer to joke than to revelation. Of course it has to have particular type of procedure to understand one message, one teaching, and moving toward one purpose. So, number one, it was the matter of language. So, based on differentiating between language, they said, we have different and new interpretation. Why new? Why you don't stick with one single? Because we want to save Bible. If we don't have different interpretation, then some teachings of Bible will have contradiction with science. So to eradicate this contradiction, what is the solution? Different interpretation. So they came by hermeneutic as creating different interpretation. Different and new interpretations are ways to save Bible from having contradictions with science, reason, or historical document. For example, a Canadian pastor agrees with homosexuality based on his new interpretation of Bible. When you come to the matter of family, based on the teachings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the teachings of revelation, what is the true, right, proper model of family? A couple? Not necessarily. Why? Because from my own understanding, I will, it seems to me that family is family. Family is based on an agreement, whether gays or lesbians or bisexuals or transsexuals. So LGBT becomes a fact. They say the language of religion is metaphorical and symbolic, but the findings and the results are facts. Nowadays, a country who likes to become a member of NATO, what is the condition? If you are going to be a member of NATO, you have to accept and welcome and approve and legislate homosexuality. This is a condition. For example, when I'm talking to you, you say, Mr. Shameli, this is not for Muslim, alhamdulillah. we Muslim and we Shia are free and are secured with regard these types of discussions, and alhamdulillah, it's for others how to come to us. Brothers and sisters, this danger is for the whole humanity, regardless of being Muslim or non-Muslim. We need to have explanation. We need to have a type of appropriate understanding. Otherwise, we have to also obey. They will bring it at the United Nations level. And they say, okay, this is a condition to be a member for the United Nations. Note, interpretation must follow a particular criterion and a proper methodology. You know, one good way to block, to shut the gate of pluralistic interpretation is this. If in your interpretation you follow a methodology, a standard procedure, then you won't have variety of understanding and interpretation. When you leave the gate for everyone to enter as they like. So you have. So one good solution and one good support for religion is what? To tell them that interpretation is in need of a standard methodology. Well-defined standard methodology. And what is the standard? In Islam, there are standards. Number one, Quran is silent word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So besides silent Quran, you need to refer to a speaking Quran. أنزلنا إليك الذكر لتبين للناس ما نزل إليهم. We have revealed to you the dhikr, and then you have the responsibility to explain. Because how do you know that morning prayer is 2 rak'ah? It has to come from Prophet Muhammad. He goes to Masjid al-Haram and he conducts. And then he says, Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli. You look at me. If you are my follower, you have to look at me. So this is first. For silent Quran, we need to refer to speaking Quran. And there are many narrations which provide understanding, interpretation of different verses. And this understanding, perceiving the real meaning of ahadith is ijtihad. It's not a job of everyone. Someone could be expert to be able to study narration and take it and compare it with Quran and come to the real understanding of the content of Quran. The strange content of the Bible and Torah. Brothers and sisters, keep in mind that normally, particularly in Muslim Ummah, there are scholars, new modern Muslim scholars, who compare Quran with Bible and Torah. I'm telling you that Quran is not comparable with neither with Bible nor with Torah. Why? Because Torah and Bible are not pure, mere revelation. It's fabricated and manipulated, and sometimes is full of myth. There are strange examples in the existing Bible and Torah. إن الله لا يأمركم بالفحشاء والمنكر if you want, easily and simply to check that is it the word of Allah or word of someone else. Allah says you have the criterion. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَأْمُرُكُمْ بِالْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not command you to corruption, adultery, and munkar. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُكُمْ بِالْعَدْلِ وَالْإِحْسَانِ. But when you refer to scriptures, see, in Torah, in the existing Torah, there is a part which says that Moses died at that time. Torah was brought to Jewish people by Moses, and there is inside the report of his death while he is alive. If the Torah was revealed to Prophet Moses, how does it report? How does it report the exact date of the death of Moses while he was alive? It doesn't say will die. Said died while Moses was alive. Also in the Torah there is a story about the clash between God and Prophet Jacob. There is a very, so to speak, nice story that yes, Jacob had a type of assert, a type of claim, and he told Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, my children, my progeny is different. So there was a clash between him and Allah. So Allah tried to make him satisfied, but he didn't. So Allah came to the earth. It was close to morning down. And then they had a clash. So he put down Allah and said, okay, do you give me the promotion or I will kill you? It says that when God came down to earth, Jacob crashed God. It was near down. When God had to give a special blessing to Israel and Jacob's generation, after which he released himself. Unless he could give that, the Israeli people are the children of Allah. Special. Jacob did not release it. How can it then be called a book of Revelation? Revelation is myth. There are also points about Prophet Lot and his adultery with his daughters after he was drunk. These thoughts made an impact about Muslim societies through students who had studied abroad. It's about 2-3 centuries that Muslim students are going abroad in different European and American countries and sitting in the same classrooms and same courses which is offered to everyone. So they were influenced, impacted. And they brought back this mentality that, it could be the same in case of Quran. Why ulama are different? Ulama, they are different based on defined standard methodology. If you go by defined standard methodology, you're welcome. If you're expert, you're welcome. But as layperson, do we have the right to interpret Quran in according to what we want, we wish, we are happy? Students went abroad, then they proposed that in the Quran, and they said there were also the same problems as in other divine books. And the solution would be the same. Pluralistic interpretation. So various interpretation was a solution for Bible and for these types of stories. Because the whole teachings were not revelation. Were taken from Aristotelian, Platonic, Greek philosophy. Of course it comes into contradiction with the findings of science. But is it the case for Quran? After the Islamic Revolution in Iran particularly, these problematic ideas become popular. There were people in Iran, scholars, so to speak scholars, particularly among the youth. Therefore, Islam and Quran may also have various interpretations. It's not just a matter of, Tanzania or Kuwait or Turkey or where. Also in Iran, because of Islamic Revolution, those people who had hostility with the Islamic aspect of revolution, the one good way is to cut the root of reliability of Quran by proposing pluralistic interpretation of the Holy Quran. This was possibly to pave that there is no single interpretation for the Quran, and that therefore all Islamic laws could have various interpretations. In this case, when we want to defend something as the very necessary and obvious law in Islam, they will easily deny it by speaking against only one interpretation. And nowadays, in the juristic system, in the legal system, judicial system, we have this problem. When in Iran, which is the state is Islamic, we talk about anything, they say, based on which interpretation? And there are people who claim that they are Islamologists. Yes, anyone could, it's not necessary to have turban and aba and ghaba and be a Hawzawi. Islamologist means the one who has the expertise in understanding Islamic teachings from Quran and Hadith. If you come and you pass the courses and you stay for years, you will be mujtahid. And in that point, you have the right to have your own understanding. But if we are not expert in understanding Quran, we have to follow. And one of the reasons that among maraja, we have the condition that the marja of any time must be the most knowledgeable. Why? Because we are distant from Asr al-Tashri'. We suffer from having the infallible Imam. Two problems. Distance from Asr al-Tashri' and absence of infallible Imam. So what could be the most reliable solution, alternative? At least the one who is expert in knowing Islam and outstanding among other scholars. They say almost impossible to have one unique personality. Okay, nowadays there is a new alternative, there is a new version. They say it could be for 10 years that in Islam, in Hausa, you don't have one single marja. Why? Because of the complexity, because of the variation, because of the detailed, because of the unlimited detail for daily life, we are in need of different marja in different fields. Some in economics, some in politics, some in education, some in international, some in seafood, some in stem cells, some in You know, they have to be aware of the details to be able to provide the hukmullah. So even nowadays, there is a big discussion in Qom that in fiqh also we have to have different specialized fiqh. Fiqh al-iqtisad, fiqh al-hukuma, fiqh al-idara, fiqh al-siyasa, fiqh al-tarbiyah, fiqh ilm al-nafs, fiqh al-tib, fiqh al-musiqa, for the one who becomes expert in that particular area and provides the best fatwa. This is also a way. But we don't go for pluralism. We don't open the gate for pluralistic interpretation. That will cut, will destroy, will damage the whole reliability of faith and Quran. It has to go through a standard, defined, academic procedure. So, I need to stop here and leave you released and free from the discussion that I created. And I understand you. Monologue is very heavy for you because you people are interested in dialogue, and if we go through dialogue, we are in need of one whole year of teaching this Quranology. So just for the matter of record, video record, I just apologize for not giving you the chance for the discussion, but afterwards I'm at your service for your discussion. I need to